On to the movie.
Get Lamp. Get Lamp was a documentary about text adventure games done by the same guy who did PBS, the documentary.
Jason Scott from the
Jason
Internet
Scott.
Archive.
Right.
Before computer games were computer games.
Now, before we start, who here has played text adventure games? Joe has. Hornsey, did you?
Played once or twice.
I played a little bit.
Do you remember what you guys played?
No, I don't.
I
Zork?
went through a testing phase where I tested a whole bunch of different ones, and yeah, Zork was one of them, obviously.
Does Legend of the Red Dragon count?
Adventure. You can actually still install Adventure like really easy. Matter of fact, I have it installed right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it hard to play?
Yes. It's one of those games where there's the original version really didn't have like an end goal, like a win scenario essentially. But there was a later version that came out, and I think they talked about it a little bit. But the second version of it that came out had a point system, and so you had to go in and get everything, and then go back to the start point after finding everything or something like that, and you could get like a maximum of like 300 points or something. But no real, overall goal in that game. Just walk around and find stuff. And then, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy had one that I vaguely remember playing. But this is all like, a really long time ago that I played those. And then I played a lot of MUDs.
The MUDs were on a BBS system, right?
Telnet.
Telnet, yeah.
They were on Telnet. And there's still some out there. Like the one I played played the most is still out there. I haven't logged in a really long time, but I went and checked their website. I think I posted it in the show notes last time.
Also, there are a lot of devices which use something like a Raspberry Pi. On the computer side, it behaves like a dial-up modem, and on the other side, it's a Telnet client for a lot of the old machines. They have a Telnet version of the bulletin board that you would dial into with your Apple or your C64 or your Radio Shack, whatever.
Do you remember playing Text Adventures, Netminer?
I really didn't do text adventures much. I did some IRC back in the day, but it was a real kludge. It was IRC on a DOS bulletin board, and because it was standard compliant but not Windows IRC compliant, things were very hacky, very limited channel names, or a lot of stuff was very limited. And unfortunately, when that bulletin board went down, I lost my access to the internet for a while.
So this movie is basically just a bunch of interviews with people who first started like with the creator of Adventure and the MIT students who started Infocom, which was the first, I guess, major video game company, right?
Well, first major video game company that dealt with text adventures.
Yeah. Which would you say that was the first video game?
No,
No?
I think there was other video games before. I mean, Pong was before that, right?
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. When did Adventure come out?
Adventure. Well, it kept on
Early
talking
80s?
about it kept on talking about like. Well, I don't know when Adventure came out, but Infocom didn't come out till later. I thought.
Yeah. Because the Infocom guys saw Adventure and were like, wow, we need to get into this. They were really impressed by Adventure.
Yeah, there was Adventure. And what was it before that? The cave something.
Colossal Cave.
Colossal Cave. That's right.
Yeah,
Colossal Cave Adventure.
the
It's actually
documentary starts
based
out
on
with
a real
them
cave.
talking about caves, right? Yeah,
Right.
Because
that's
it's
right.
based on a real cave.
Right. So they mapped out the cave, and then the guy created the game based on the map of the cave.
Because he had gotten a divorce from his wife, but he wanted a game his kids could play to give them that same sense that he had from being in the caves.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting start to it, and basically they became pretty big time. And I don't know what period in the 80s, but there's a company called Infocom.
It says it was created. It was founded in 79.
1976. 1976 was when Colossal Cave Adventure was made.
Oh, okay. Infocom was June 22nd, 1979. At least according to Wikipedia.
And then what about Adventure? When did that come out?
It came out as Adventure. Well, it's Colossal Cave Adventure, and then it also came out as Adventure. But
But that wasn't Infocom, right? That was just
No.
an independent guy.
I think no, Adventure was based on Colossal Cave Adventure, but I think it was actually like graphical. I'm not sure. Yeah,
So-
it was conceived as a graphical version of the 1977 text adventure Colossal Cave Adventure, and it was on the Atari 2600,
Hmm.
and it came out in 1980.
And this documentary is from 2010, so it's already 14 years old when they're talking to these guys.
Check your math.
14? 2024, right?
Oh, okay. So the documentary. I was gonna say the game was a little bit older than that.
Oh, no. The documentary is 14 years old. But so now those guys are really old.
And he does mention MUDs. I kind of wish he had gotten into
Yeah,
MUDs
they
a
did
little bit
mention
more.
They talked to game creators, game writers, game players, to the guys that started Infocom, and basically everybody that was involved with it at the time.
There was a really interesting section in the middle where they had interviewed some players that were blind,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
talking about how, it kind of gave them the sense of, how people are when they can see.
Right.
Yeah,
I found that extremely interesting.
They did. They talked about how descriptive it was and how that was a new experience to them, which is cool. I thought.
Yeah.
So there, that's basically all it is these interviews, and there's a neat little Easter egg in each scene where they have a brass lamp. Or lantern hidden in each scene. Sometimes it's behind a pillow, and sometimes it's in full sight, and kind of cool to look for it.
Another thing I found interesting was that when they were talking about the first people that were playing it and how it was printed, like on paper.
Oh yeah, that's right. In the lab, they were talking about that they would print it out to play it on the original teletype machines. So anyway, I thought there was some cool like points that were made, especially regarding like original games. And so I'm going to play, regarding modern games. So I'm going to play this clip from this guy, and he's talking about how he's describing what it would be to be in like a real game as close as you can be as far as like a virtual world and stuff. So I'll see if this will play. Patch Bay. Get lamp. Okay. And see if you guys agree with him. I'm not sure I agree, but we'll see if this works.
I like these pictures, and I make pretty well. You know, they're only. I mean, it's a 3D world, but I'm only seeing it in 2D on the screen. So maybe if I got like the little headset on and put that on, now I can see it in 3D. But if I move my head a bit too much, maybe if you put little sensors on, so I can move my head. Yeah, now I can see it properly. Yes, it's all here. And
y'all hear that?
But I can still only seeing things, and maybe I could have maybe some feeling as well. So I put a little data glove on, and yes, it feels warm. Oh, that's good. But I'm not hearing things. I put the goggles on, and I haven't got this sense of being in a place. And maybe I want to be able to move. So tell you what, let's get these big like coffin things and fill them full of these gels, and I'll take off all my clothes and put on all these different devices, and I'll lay down it, and then it put these little electric currents through and make it feel hard or soft. So it gives me the impression that I'm actually walking through grass because it's generating. And now I'm beginning to feel I'm really in one of these places. But of course, really, all that's happening here is that my senses are being fooled into this. What would happen if I was maybe just cut out the whole business with the finger? Just stick a little jack in the back of your head, and it goes right into the spinal cord, and then you're talking straight to the brain there. All the senses that come into your brain, they're all filtered, and they're used to create a world model inside your head in your imagination. But if you could talk straight to that imagination and cut out all the senses, then it would be impossible to ignore it. You couldn't say, oh, that's just an image of a dragon. That would be a dragon. And if there was some kind of technology which could enable you to talk straight to the imagination, well, there is. It's called text, and it's been around for several thousand years. And I have seen people leap out of their chairs when a line is said in front of them, there is an immense fire-breathing dragon here. And when you're typing, the output that you're typing is in words, the same as the input. There's no shift. It's not that you're looking at a picture and then typing in words, looking at a picture moving around a mouse around. It's the same environment. It's all words, it's all thoughts, it's all the mind, it's all the imagination. So when you're dealing with text, it's really for people who have got strong imaginations. And the tragedy is that many people have strong imaginations, it's just they never get to play the text because they went for the graphics first. Well,
what do y'all think about that? You think if more people played these text adventure games, they would catch on? Because
Well, no,
I don't think so either.
I don't think so. I did find another part interesting, where it was saying that it greatly helped people with reading disorders.
Oh yeah, they used them as actual teaching tools too.
Yeah, to help people that have dyslexia or something to be able to type and to quickly read just by practicing, essentially.
So I mean, I think I've got a pretty good imagination, but I don't know, man. I've tried text adventures fairly recently with that in the past few years, and I don't get that same immersive feel that I do like in a really good book for some reason, or even a really good video game, I mean, graphics aren't everything, sure.
It's
Yeah.
different with the first-person shooter.
Oh,
Have
yeah.
some monster jump out to startle you sometimes. I
Sure.
can see that, but never had that happen in a text adventure when
No,
I'm
I've never
reading.
had that kind of reaction. I've thought, oh, that's kind of
Maybe
cool. I
he's
mean, I wish I
suggesting my
did.
imagination isn't very good, but
Yeah, maybe
I feel like my
that's our problem.
imagination's okay.
So I
You have
think,
to have a pretty active imagination for a text to startle you, I think.
yeah, I would think that if that was true,
Right.
then these things would be catching on like crazy left and right, you know. And this guy, there's another guy that brings up another point about why they should be successful today. Let me move to that real quick.
I do think it can be very immersive as text, though. I mean, you can feel like you're in the environment, in the world. And I think that's some of like people that play like WoW and stuff. They get so in their chatting with their friends that they actually are friends with these people because they're so immersed in the world. I just don't know if I agree with him about the point where he's like, yeah, you'd actually like jump and be startled by text that came across the screen. I don't know that it's that immersive.
I know that like choose your own adventure books were popular for a while. I don't know if they still are or not, but it's kind of the same thing taken to a whole nother level. So,
And I think that was the interactive nature of those books that kind of drew people in. At least me, I thought it was cool that you actually felt like you were part of the story because you got to make choices. But I just feel like that, I mean, games have come so far since then that you still get to make those choices. I mean, just because you have graphics, I don't think really detracts from the game. I mean, that's my opinion. I don't know if that's true or not, but anyway.
I agree.
Here's another quote from the movie I thought was interesting. I can get it. Attached to play here. Oh, there it is. Okay.
That needs to be refound. We've lost something and we need to find it again.
Okay, not that guy.
The prevailing opinion is no one will go to their computer and sit there and read to play something. They want to see the visuals. They want to play with the Xbox or something like that. But in fact, what's happened since then? Now we all have the internet. And what do people do with computers most of the time that they're sitting on the computer? They're on the internet and they're reading. And they read a page and then they type something in. Maybe they type a new address and they go to that next address. They click on the next thing to go to the next page. And we read for hours and hours on our computers now. And they didn't believe that we would do that anymore. Now we're back to it. We're all reading on computers. I don't think that if we just put it out there and say, here's a text game, and we'll put it in bookshops and put it in computer stores, I think it's an easy sell.
I just don't buy into that. There's something missing from his logic that maybe I don't understand.
There was another guy on there that said, you know, he had tried to make money with this and couldn't, and that if he could, he would.
Right. And that's the next quote I was going to get to was that guy, because he has, it's kind of funny the way he even puts it. Is like what is this what's stopping me or something like that? Let me get to him real quick because that's the last one.
Yeah, I liked him.
Yeah, and he was part of the original Infocom team, I believe.
Yep.
Let's see. Because there's a guy that's talking before him that's funny, that's talking about how dedicated he is and stuff to the game.
Cascade Mountain attempt. That was, 99? I wish that had worked. That didn't work at all.
I would say that the commercial market for interactive fiction is so small that it doesn't warrant an investment of any financial magnitude at all. I think if you want to do it as a home hobbyist, or you want to do it as an artist, or you want to do it to prove a point, or you want to do it to amuse your friends and relatives, that's great. But don't ask me to invest any money in it, because I did that, and it was a total abject failure.
I guess since the first couple of horribly failed...
He has one more funny line. I think it's coming up. That's his. So I think he's right. I just don't think there's a market, despite what that other guy said. I mean, what is... But if I think about the difference between just being on the internet and looking at news stories and things like that, but that's not... I'm using the internet for a different purpose than playing games. You know, I'm using it because I want to know what's going on now, just as I would, 20 or 30 years ago if I bought a newspaper. I'm reading a newspaper because I want to read a newspaper, not because I want to play an interactive fiction game. That's why I'm using the internet, because I want to see what's going on. And I think he's got some kind of false equivalence there between that and, well, if you're already typing on a computer and reading on the computer, then if you put a text game out there, it'll be a huge seller. I just don't think that's true.
I also liked when they kept talking about how with the puzzles, we got to have puzzles. If you don't have any puzzles in there, then it's going to be too easy and people are going to feel gypped. And then they talk to the people and the people are like, oh God, I hate fucking puzzles.
Yeah, or mazes.
Mazes, yes.
Yeah. And they did talk about, I think early on when they were talking about Infocom, how much fun they were having in the company, and how one guy said if he could pick any job that he wanted to have, it would be the job he had then, working at Infocom.
Right.
And that now, he said, the way modern games are made, people don't really have fun anymore, and I guess it's been so corporatized, and I don't know, it's different. It's a totally different environment. So
it's different because you have 200 people making the game, so you're not part of making the entire game anymore.
Right.
You're just part of this one little piece. I do think that games, that they're saying that it's dead and that people don't do fiction like that anymore. I think it's just evolved. It's not a text-based game anymore. It's World of Warcraft. It's become this. It's still a fictional environment and a fictional game. It's just much more advanced and more realistic than it used to be. People still enjoy that, and there's still mazes. They're called quests. It's all still there. It's just a different form, a more modern form, and people will pay for it still. They're not going to pay for something that's it's like us trying to watch a 1950s TV show. How much are you going to pay to go watch a 1950s black and white TV show? You're not, right?
Well, the pacing is different. Have you ever tried to watch the original Star Trek? I mean, it's good.
It's
have
hard to watch.
But yeah, it's just so much slower paced.
Yeah.
People get so mad when I tell them that that's the worst series is the original out of all of them, but because they're such Trekkies, which I enjoy it. It's corny, but it's just.
Well, then you just ask them, then which series is the worst?
Mm-hmm. I'm sure
I remember watching the original Star Trek on TV when I was a kid.
Oh yeah,
it was
I
awesome.
did too.
Yeah,
at that time, but that was
state of the art
at the time. Now, when I compare it to modern TV shows, no, it's corny. It's terrible. It's just a matter of perspective, right?
Also,
it's the same with the text-based game versus
what it had
World of Warcraft.
You got to remember that Star Trek was dealing with a very heavy censorship environment back then. There was so much, you couldn't show or whatever.
Society's changed a lot, yeah.
Also, the fact that text adventures are text and rely on both mental gymnastics and typing versus the mouse-based stuff that everybody is getting used to with more graphic games, that a lot of people, that's like stick shift. People would rather go with an automatic.
Just like audiobooks versus regular books, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are switching to audiobooks. I do both. I usually read my Kindle at night before I go to bed, and if I'm not able to sit down and read, I like to just listen to an audiobook while I'm doing something else. But they're both valid. I think it's just an evolution of the form of entertainment.
Also, in one of the things I've noticed is that in adult media, the text stuff is vanishing pretty much in availability, where there used to be a lot of little books you'd get for a couple of bucks, $3 or whatever, or TV guide-sized magazines. A lot of people don't want to deal with their stories presented in text. They want to deal with something more more active.
But
So-
like short form stuff, like news stories and stuff like that, I would much rather read than watch a video because I can scan through it very quickly and pick up the highlights and stuff like that.
Then again, that's why YouTube, all of the stuff on YouTube Shorts and whatnot is coming out. It's replacing a short posting on Reddit or what have you.
And TikTok and all that.
Right. Everybody's getting used to short, active, dynamic stuff. And as I was with RRC, I don't type very well. And that's a lot of work. And I did some very creative work when I was working with that stuff, but it was all pretty limited compared to what you can get away with by configuring characters on like World of Warcraft or Fallout or whatever your BattleTech or whatever your taste is in interactive stuff, especially with games which support an N button mouse. A lot of your gaming stuff you can preload a lot of actions and scenarios, so you just hit you hit the pink button on the left and something happens, something fires or somebody jumps or whatever. So you don't have to deal with a real.
Go ahead.
What happened?
I don't know. So I think that a lot of these text adventures kind of slowly graduated into graphical point-and-click adventures like Myst, or even games like they had a lot of them early on, like was it Monkey Island?
Yeah.
All
the LucasArts games.
All the LucasArts games, a lot of the point and click type adventures. I think they slowly graduated into those type of games. I mean, Myst is just nothing but puzzles, but it's very graphical, and a lot of people really liked the fact that it was very graphical. Things like Monkey Island and maybe even like Leisure Suit Larry. I've never played Leisure Suit Larry, but that was graphical, but it was also interactive with
You can
the
get
little
that on
characters.
your phone now.
The little characters on the screen, but it was still the same idea. It was still kind of puzzles, and you need to know to grab this, to do that, and have this item to be able and go over to here and use this item over here, as opposed to very fast-paced games. So after a while, it turned into I think those might have even graduated more into like turn-based RPGs. Or something where you have. Was that?
Oblivion, Morrowind, those evolved into things like that, where you have like the elaborate quests that you have to go on. You have to finish this thing to get this magical item. I mean, Morrowind and Oblivion and all those things are the next iteration, right? It's all a circle. They just keep evolving into a new medium. But it's the same kind of thing where you do something and you find this thing and that opens up this next piece.
Right.
So yeah, I agree.
So it's everything just kind of slowly graduated where it's the same idea, but it's done in a different format. And because they can. I mean, what would you rather sit there and read a text on a screen, or have text on a screen plus an image of something, and then you can kind of move it around at the same time, and then those just kind of slowly graduate into other places. I mean, obviously the adventure games like that aren't going to be in the same pace as like a first-person shooter, which is more of fast-paced adrenaline running. But this is.
But at the time these were coming out, late 70s, early 80s, you also had graphical games coming out at the same time. So during the heyday of these was during the early heyday of graphical games.
Right.
So I don't know if that quite works, but yeah, I do see what you're saying there. But then you might as well say that it all started with a tabletop RPG, and then you might as well just take it all back to Tolkien.
Well, it's not wrong, but at the same time, I think that's why you can't go. You have such a hard time going back, is because people have. When you have something that's basically the same thing, but with something pretty to look at the same time.
Modern interpretation of it,
exactly. Right? Once you have, it's the same idea, but with a modern interpretation, it's harder to go back to something that's not.
They use some of those same ideas and same techniques that were in those text games when they created these new games.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It has those principles built into it. It is something new and different, and the text game in itself is neat. It's just hard to get a Generation Z person interested in typing a bunch of messages back and forth. When they spend all day chatting with their friends, they're like, why would I want to do this dumb thing when I can talk to a real person?
Well, I know that they, in the documentary, and obviously this was 14 years ago, but they were talking about a yearly contest that they were having with people submitting text-based games. So it was still ongoing then. It's just, not profitable, not something you're going to see mass distributions of.
Right.
Not when I can go in and shoot people in Borderlands.
Granted, that's a whole different genre. That's adrenaline junkie, and I'm not going to knock it. I love the hell out of some first person shooter stuff, but I think that's why you're never going to be able to really go back. Is you have all the newer generations of the exact same idea, but with the visual aspect added to it. Your imagination may be fantastic, but at the same time, if you're looking at a screen and the screen also has a picture, that's pretty cool too.
To Joe's point, that's the modern shooter is the modern equivalent of the early graphic games like Space Invaders and Asteroids and stuff. Those were action. You're doing something constantly. Well, the first-person shooter is the same thing, right? It's just this adrenaline thing where you're trying to do something and combat something.
That hand-eye coordination, fast twitch.
timing. Yep.
Yeah.
Patterns, timing.
Old became new.
Yeah. Yep. I think we've beaten this thing.
So, thumbs up all around?
Yeah.
Yeah, I give it a thumbs up. I mean, it's not exactly exciting.
No.
But it wasn't meant to be either, you know.
And he has a very he's very skilled at beating a dead horse when it comes to this, and he attacks this from absolutely every single angle, leaving no stone unturned. And I mean, a lot of this information probably could have been done a lot quicker, but at the same time, I mean, that doesn't mean it was bad. It's just it was a lot.
I still wish he would have gone more into the muds and things like that. And
that's just because you were a big mud guy.
Yeah, that's true.
Didn't he say at one point that he didn't go too deep into other things because then that would be like a whole different movie, and he wanted to keep it to a little bit shorter?
Yeah, he did.
BBS, good lord, BBS documentary was how long? Like 7-8 hours?
8 hours, yeah.
Was it 8 hours?
Yeah.
I didn't watch that one. I didn't have the time.
But yeah, I mean, if you're really interested in stuff like that, I guess it's good that it's out there, you know.